Welcome, everybody, back to episode 4 of the Ethereal podcast. I'm your host, Ian.
And I'm Alex.
All right. Well, before we get started with everything, Alex, do you have a special announcement for next week?
Sure. So you'll hear a little bit more about it in detail in the episode around the homework section, but we are going to have our first guest on next week.
Yep. Yeah, so it'd be a big change. It'd be awesome. Looking forward to it. All right. So,
Absolutely.
cool. All right. So before we jump in, I got a quote of the week as per usual. So this is a quote from James Baldwin. The most dangerous creation of any society is the man who has nothing to lose.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's pretty good though. That is a perfect segue into what we're about to talk about. So last week, you'll probably remember we touched on the idea of society in general. I know that's a very broad term, but specifically censorship, and how not only social media, but different state factions are actively trying to monitor people en masse. So, Alex, what did you think about the whole concept of the social credit system? With the Chinese government. I knew about it before we started the podcast, but I after taking a little deeper dive into it, I didn't realize how it was categorized. So like you have businesses who are supposed to abide by this very intricate system, and essentially it's like a FICO credit score if you're from the US, where you essentially abide by a set of rules that are laid out, and if you disobey those rules, your credit score goes down. But I was curious about your input on it and what you thought overall about the social credit system.
I have to say that, it does sound like a useful thing, but in the wrong hands, which, let's face it, the state-controlled government of China is probably the wrong hands. It can definitely turn into a very soft form of punishment for an authoritarian government, which is pretty scary because, they no longer need to actually put anyone in jail. They can just keep you from being able to buy a house or get a car, which is incredibly scary to think that that a government can have such measures on a person's life. And I think that made me realize how important liberty is. We don't use this word liberty a lot, but it's in our Constitution, and we as Americans are protected in the pursuit of liberty and freedom. And I think that that's something to really consider as we continue to move into more and more of surveillance and security state. And I mean, this goes for the credit score system, the social credit score system in China, as well as a credit system in America. We have a form of a credit system, which was honestly surprising to me because I didn't necessarily understand it or use it yet because I'm still in college and whatnot. But I certainly understand that it's important and that it can, in the same way, it can keep you from being able to get a loan for a house. It's just we have a different criteria, which was pretty interesting. I wouldn't have expected that of America.
Yeah, and well, it's a little less BS, I guess, over here, but there's still pitfalls with essentially like our credit. From what I understand, our credit score system is strictly like financial based. So if you don't have a lot of credit or if you can't pay your bills on time, then your credit score goes down. And then, if you have a consistent pattern, of paying bills on time and you have, let's say, a credit line through a credit card or a mortgage or something like that, then you can have a great credit score. But I'm sure it has its own set of problems that people face. But the social credit system, well, from what I read and understood, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's so complex and broad that you don't have like a single rating. There's no like strict guidelines necessarily that you can abide by to be a good citizen in China. So it largely depends on where you are, what kind of person you are, what career you chose. Because from what I saw in the moral part of it, because they have like a little moral section, if you speak out against the government, if you say anything or purchase anything, rather, that's not Chinese, then your social credit score goes down, which is such a ironic concept to me, considering how much stuff we have that's made in China or Taiwan. So like indirectly, we may have a really good social credit score, but I of course we're not going to hear about it over in the West most likely, but like in China, I can only imagine the people who are on the wrong side of that credit score, what happens to them, as far as like not only job prospects but even jail time or worse. Yeah,
I mean, just imagine that you get jailed for being friends with the wrong person and you didn't even know. Like they commit some type of offense against the government, and then all of a sudden you are connected to them, and like the Black Mirror episode, you lose like some type of point system, and people, you're not allowed to certain things. People don't want to be around you. Like, it's a scary thought, and I think that it definitely is presented in a useful and productive manner. Like, sure, it will help some people save money on certain items or have more opportunities and options, but the possibilities of corruption are pretty clear, and I think that we should be very aware of China, and along with our own government, how they can kind of whittle us down in our freedoms and put us in a corner.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, there's no telling how much the state can be involved, because from what I also read was that China, like you just said, on the surface, like it seems great. It seems like, oh wow, this is such a cool concept where everyone can be safer. No one will be as incentivized to let's say rob a store or participate in money laundering, white collar crimes and such. But the thing is, though, China is I think invested billions of dollars into monitoring and surveillance systems in their big cities. I don't know about where else in China, but there's so many different face monitoring systems in their streets and their businesses, obviously in their state-run areas, like the government buildings. But I can only imagine, like I being on the internet. I mean, we all have like our internet footprint, right? And we all are being monitored to a degree. But that is like another level that I never want to be a part of, where I mean, everything, like each and every living moment, you're being monitored. That's such a terrifying idea. So I never want to be a part of that.
And it's pretty scary when you think about all the infrastructure and planning that actually had to come into play for this. Like you look at companies like Tencent, which I don't know if you're familiar with, or Baba. And those two companies, they are incredible data mining companies. They have insane amounts of data analytics and big data, and they are putting it to work, and they have all of the pipelines necessary to continue this type of surveillance, mass surveillance. And also it's funny because it comes in the name of security, right? It's all good mannered and benign, but take, for example, in the US, it happened right after 9/11. We had the Patriot Act just fly right through Congress, and that opened the door to the administrative states being able to access just about virtually anything.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I like to think that we're not that far gone, but it could. I mean, there are people who would like very much for that to occur in this country or in the West. in general. So
Yeah, I'd say if anything, our privacy is on life support right now.
Oh, 100%. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Uh, no doubt. I mean, just being on the internet, just us talking right now, I mean, I'm sure someone
Mhm.
could easily be listening. So I don't like thinking about it too much, but you have to.
It's true.
So
We did mention some hot topic issues and some big names probably listening to us right now. And
yeah,
speaking about listening, let's get into the social media topic, because
definitely.
that one, the social dilemma, is what you prescribed for us to watch
Hmm.
this week, and let's go over that. So let's talk about some takeaways from that.
Yeah.
So I think the most obvious one is that, like, we have a social media problem. Like,
Hmm.
we literally are unaware of, like, all of the possible problems that are coming from social media in the short term as well as the long term. Because I mean,
Hmm.
this is a very new technology to humanity, and although we are adaptable, like, I just wonder how far we're going to bend before we break, and if the solution to that is more technology. Like if in the future we like, for example, Elon Musk has a company that's working on brain implants, and that use electronics to help people that are physically disabled to move their limbs and to kind of fix the circuits in their mind and their neural system to improve their livelihood. But what if in the future our brains and our bodies are not adaptable enough to live with such technologies as social media, that we have to actually be incorporated in with electronics and other machines, which is a scary thought. But I mean,
Yeah.
that's a very far outlook in terms of time. But I mean, we do have a
Uh,
social media problem.
oh, 100%. I mean, yeah, in the documentary, first starts out with an ex Google engineer, right, who saw, and I think it seemed like he bought into like what Google was selling in terms of, we're creating this expansive and harmonious ecosystem. They use a lot of flowery words to make it sound like they're you know for the people, right? But but he took a step back in the documentary, and he really examined, okay, wait a minute, what are we doing this for, and why why does it seem like no one's happy? And so I think that's what spawned him talking to other huge names that we've probably never heard of, but in
Mhm.
Silicon Valley world, are well respected people. Like, it wasn't, and I believe in the documentary, one of them was at one point, or maybe still is, the chief engineer for Facebook, I think. I can't remember what official title he had, but him and several other high-ranking people in the engineering department, or R&D department, at these FANG companies, or which is Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, Google, the big boys. Um, he talked to several of these key figures, and they all kind of basically had the same conclusion, that social media is anything but a beneficial thing. But they set out for it to be a beneficial thing initially. And one of the key reasons why it's become such um, a toxic and potentially dangerous habit for us as as consumers, is because it's not always people that are influencing or suggesting content to us. It's AI, right? It's that's what I think that's the most not terrifying, but the most concerning concept, is that you have an algorithm that takes clusters of information about you and what you like, and automatically suggests a certain, whether it be political or topical media that you probably would enjoy. So like you're never going to escape that little bubble. And there's a couple other problems too, but that one stuck out to me. I don't know about you, but
Can I piggyback on that real quick?
yeah, for sure.
So along with like the algorithm, that certainly is a function of social media and how to, suggest content or suggest people to look at. And we have to keep in mind that the algorithm can have coefficients and variables to kind of influence people in certain ways. And if you think about that, and then you also realize that all of these services are free for a reason, because it's meant for advertisers and marketing of big corporations to be able to invest and influence.
Mhm.
And I mean, it seems obvious that this algorithm would be set up to monetize as much as possible the engagement, the interfacing, all of the aspects of social media.
Mhm.
And I mean, the power of that algorithm, it's scary because, this is a new time where people are either catering to the algorithm or they're getting shadow banned or even just deplatformed. And
Yep.
and it's a very scary thought to think that on the internet there is this like soulless algorithm that is just pre-programmed to do certain things. And we have to remember that these companies are not here for us. They're making money, and they're going to find more and more evasive ways of increasing profit and in turn growth. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I thought that was really important to remember, is like, it's social media is not about social media. It's a business.
100%. Yeah, and I'm sure lots of people have heard this by now, but if you're using a service for free, then you're not the customer, right? You're definitely
Mm-hmm.
the product. But before we jump into, and I know we were going to talk about, how this could affect kids and potentially have serious addictive issues, which I think we touched on briefly. But I just wanted to ask, like on a personal level, like what your history with social media is and where you kind of are now in your relationship with social media. Like how much do you use it? What do you use, if you don't mind sharing? And
Mm-hmm.
just kind of like where we stand may offer like a good like understanding of what we should be doing to like uh at least moderate how much we consume.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for asking that. So I'd say that I'm pretty rudimentary, and also kind of um, I don't necessarily enjoy social media, but I do use it in some instances. So for me, a big deal is like time. So if you think about like the day, like everyone on this planet has 24 hours in a day, and if I spend time on social media, then that cuts into the rest of my productivity in the day. And I mean, even just thinking about it, like we have day jobs, we have to work, we have to also cook. Like there's very little time to invest in yourself and um, to also engage in real life socially. So I think that it was, for me, it's super important to not use social media as entertainment. And if I do use social media, it has to be very decisive, and it has to be it has to have an aim that corresponds to reality. And so for me, I don't keep social media on my phone just for the fact of not wanting to be distracted, or to find an excuse or reason to not move towards the vision that I have of my future. And so I don't have social media on my phone, but on occasion and when I need to, I use a web browser, Chrome, Safari, to look up something on YouTube, like a tutorial how to, or rather to look into a company on Instagram, see if, like what they're up to and whatnot. And I used to have like so much like whenever I was growing up, I remember there were these social media sites like YouTube and Facebook specifically were the first two I was introduced to.
Mhm.
And it was wild. It was like every single entity in the real life like had a mapping onto social media, and I could just explore the world without even having to like move. Like it was wild
Yeah.
to me. But then like I think that I had a diminishing return where like I maybe it was like just doom scrolling, just constantly looking through where I got burned out, or just like realizing like, holy cow, it's been 5 hours and I haven't
Yeah.
even like moved off the couch or something like that. But
Yeah.
I just got turned off. I think especially when I went to Twitter. I started a Twitter just because all my
Oh,
friends had a Twitter,
yeah.
and that place like today it's not even a social media. I consider it just a corporate catalog. Like that's what
Oh,
I think it
yeah,
really is.
for sure.
And but it's crazy that like it had so much potential and what it was
Hmm.
whenever I was using it. But I got turned off in that because it was a very argumentative place rather than a discussion or conversation. I think the biggest problem that I had was that we were reduced to like, what was it, 120 characters or something like that. Like
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
I think
that's
so.
no way to talk to people, you know. That's not how we actually interact or work. And so
Yeah.
I think that Twitter was the one that really set me off, and I just started cutting stuff out because it's not worth it to
Yeah.
me.
And I never had Twitter, but you can you get on Twitter and like without logging in and stuff, right? So I met like definitely in high school and in college, I would just I would like scroll and like eat up. It sounds bad, but like eat up all these rants that people would have and arguments, and I would just like go, "Oh, that's so stupid. Why would you say that?" But like I would keep looking at it. Like it's almost like I wanted to see people get upset. If I
You
know
wanted
that's,
the conflict.
I wanted to, yeah, it sounds terrible. I know, but like I wanted to watch people get mad. I wanted, because it's in a sick kind of way entertaining to see people just lose it online.
Mhm.
And I hope I'm not alone in that, because otherwise I'm going to sound crazy. But
No, you're not.
um,
And I think that kind of psychological behavior is like almost relevant to like whenever you watch like funny videos. A lot of them are like of people like making stupid decisions and getting hurt and stuff. And it
yeah,
like, I mean, it's funny because like you look at this and you're like, look at this idiot. But imagine if that was you. Like
yeah,
these are real people. Like too.
yeah,
It's but
yeah.
on Twitter they're not real people. Like
Oh
I
no.
in one of my classes in college talking about the rise of bots and for example they talked about Wikipedia. I didn't think about this at first. I know this is a little off topic, we're going down the rabbit hole, but Wikipedia is an incredibly cool thing because we're talking about social media right now, but think about web browsers are also catering content to you as you're searching. Like I mean,
Mhm.
there's obviously like a ton of different factors involved, like location and like sex and all that stuff. But like with Wikipedia, everybody in the world sees the same piece of information, and they use a lot of bots to regulate that, to keep information secure and stable across the pages on there. But to tie this back into social media, I don't remember the exact statistic, but I know it was in 2016, there was something like 48% of tweets were actually by bots, which, I mean, that's not telling you
Whoa,
something about Twitter. Like,
I didn't know that. Wow. I see. Again, I try to stay off Twitter because I know how toxic it is, but I'm no better than anybody else, because I still used Reddit when I was growing up a lot. I will fully admit that. And Reddit can be just as bad as Twitter, except it almost feels like they're more passive aggressive on Reddit sometimes than on Twitter. It's not quite as crazy. Especially like if you go to like on world politics or news or one of those places, it's not quite as bad, but it's still the same idea where like you're trying to look for things that you disagree with politically or whatever, right? And
Mhm.
you and they know that like the algorithms know that you're looking at that, maybe not even knowing that you disagree with it, but they know that you enjoy looking at it. And so they'll keep suggesting, not on Reddit necessarily, but on Facebook or Instagram, they'll keep suggesting content to you that you will react to and stay on.
I think that's incredibly terrifying because I mean, as we're talking about right now, like social media is designed to be addictive, and if you think about that, it's like the engineers behind these algorithms, they're playing both sides. Like they don't care
Mhm.
if you're like, let's put this into like a political perspective. Like they don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. They're gonna suggest you a certain amount of Republican stuff to you know kind of to feed you that serotonin or dopamine, and they're also gonna feed you the Democrat side to also bring out angst and you know tension as
Yep.
well because all of these emotions and you know responsive behaviors whether it's like just mentally or actual engagement it's productive and important for them to make money, which I mean that's that's a yikes. That is
Mhm.
scary to think that I mean it's certainly smart, but it's scary to think that they have those measures and they are implementing them.
Yeah, I know, a lot of, it seems like a lot of tech company advertising is all about bringing us together. And I mean, you've probably seen the kind of ads I'm talking about where they try to uh, emphasize that they're there for you, right?
Mhm.
Where we should all come together and just enjoy life with this great technology we're offering you. But in reality, they know exactly how we think, like how people think. And we're not really that hard to figure out, honestly. It seems like we're pretty predictable, and so they know that, and so they profit off of our human nature, which is incredibly powerful. When you think about the top companies in the world, like they're worth trillions now according to the
Mhm.
market, right? There's a reason. They didn't just get there because people think Windows is cool, or or because it's got its fair share of problems. But or like YouTube or any of those, it's not just because people like watching videos. It's because they found a way to not only allow you to upload videos for free, but suggest exactly what you want to see. And not only that, but they give you advertisers that match what you watch, right? Or match closely to what you watch. So if you're watching gaming
Mhm.
videos, right, that you're going to get ads for AMD, the new AMD processor, or or a gaming setup, right? They know what they're doing. It's
Certainly.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
I really wonder. Don't mean to cut you off. I really wonder about the algorithm. Like, both of us are engineers, specifically in computer science, but like, I truly do wonder what the algorithm is. Not like in terms of like technically, because you know they're not making these things for good or bad. They're making these things to profit, and it'd be really interesting to see the design of the algorithm because like as we know technologies are designed like they're polypotent and they come with a social package, right? So even though they're designing these with profit, they tailor them to the social behavior. So exactly what you're talking about earlier, like these algorithms and social media itself prey on our primitive behaviors, and I think it'd be pretty enlightening to know like, hey, this is the basic fundamentals of being a human, and I mean that would be incredibly interesting because they certainly spend a lot of money in R&D, research and development. It'd be interesting to find out what they discover.
Mhm. And I think that's a great point to bring up because there's a certain set of biases that that you brought up for the topic for today. That especially deal with human nature and how we
Mhm.
want to conform to and follow what we agree with. So, do you want to talk just for a second about confirmation bias? And
Yeah, for sure.
cool, cool.
I can go ahead and read off the definition for us, and I want us to keep in mind. Ironically enough, these definitions and bias slash fallacies were pulled from a corporate finance institute website, so that's pretty funny. But anyways, confirmation bias is the idea that people seek out information and data that confirms to their pre-existing ideas. They tend to ignore contrary information, and I mean, I certainly do that sometimes, especially, like whenever I want to be right. That's how
Oh
we
yeah,
work.
you don't want to. And this is just a hypothetical here, but let's say you are that you lean far left, right? You don't want to go to the other side to validate your point because all you're going to see is people disagreeing with you, and vice
Mhm.
versa, right? You and I know that's just a political statement. I mean, it can be less controversial than that. Like your favorite, Apple versus Windows, or sorry, Windows versus Mac, or something like that, right? You don't want to hear what the other side says because you're at risk of being wrong. Um, and yeah, I'm guilty of that too. I don't want to disagree with people because I may learn something that I didn't understand before. So it's too risky.
I have an interesting thought tagging along to that. So, confirmation bias is incredibly pervasive in humanity, but I wonder, just thinking about this, it made me realize how we are kind of almost conditioned and trained confirmation bias in school, like in the form of grading. Like you have to be right, or you get a consequence. You get a deduction of points, and it's that's kind of a funny notion, right? Because in conversations, like something that I try to hold myself up to is that I love being wrong because anytime you're wrong, you learn something. Like anytime you fail at an action or a goal, like you get another chance at succeeding with a new state of information. And I think that, like, I don't know, what do you think? Do you think that confirmation bias is kind of conditioned into us because of grading in schools?
I'd say so. I mean, anything that's standardized, it's going
Mhm.
to hardwire you into believing that you have to follow a certain path, or you should follow a certain path if you want to succeed. And what I mean by that is like in a career, and different aspects of just things like living. Like if it's much better for folks who run these institutions to tell people over and over and over that, and I'm not necessarily talking about grading, but um, it's much easier for society to run efficiently if you work in a corporate world. If you don't, if you just follow a career path, if you climb a ladder, if you don't try to go off on your own and do something, it's much less risky as a whole if people just kind of follow a certain path and don't try new things. It's
Mhm.
safer, it's safer overall, even if it's not necessarily healthy for you to do that. If you're feeling depressed or feeling like you're not, you don't have a purpose, right? Sometimes that's because you're not, sometimes because you're trying too hard to fit in. And sometimes, and it's hard to stand out because you don't want to look like you are the weird one, right?
Exactly. That actually brings us into our next bias, herd mentality. Do you want
Yep.
to cover that now?
Sure. Yeah. So again, reading off the definition here, it's when people blindly copy and follow what others are doing. And so when they do this, they are being influenced by emotion rather than by independent analysis. And again trying to make it personable again. I like to think that, oh, I'm a I don't look at what other people think. Who cares what they say? Type person. I pretend that it doesn't affect me, but in reality it does. I think it affects everybody in some way. You don't want to look like the odd one out ever. Um, you even if it's the right thing to do for in whatever circumstance, if you're in a, let's say, I don't know, you're in Times Square, right? And you see someone like speaking out or protesting or something like that, you just want to be like, oh God, oh God. I just want to get this picture in front of those stairs, those famous stairs. I forget what they're called, but you don't want to look like you are trying to make a statement, because that's it's dangerous for what your reputation looks like, right? And I'm not saying that's always logical, but not everything is logical when your emotions play a role too, right? So we're not
Yeah,
robots.
I think that herd mentality is super easy for it to happen to us, like subconsciously, like without us knowing, because I mean, most of society is set up in a way where it's like either two or three different camps, and whenever we like we follow a certain ideology, we don't really like we just we follow. We don't necessarily question all of the values or the other side. We only are only following the herd per se, and it's with that, it's emotional problem for humans, because like you said, we aren't robots. It's not like we have the time or necessarily the energy to like analyze and understand every single aspect or feature of our ideology. And so we
Hmm.
kind of like fall into line. And I think because the way society is set up, not necessarily blaming society by any means, but just like noticing how, especially the most obvious is like political camps. Like
Hmm.
when it's that's a herd mentality in itself.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I personally don't think that politics was ever meant to be split up into different parties, and I think that some of our founding fathers had the same notions. Like I believe George Washington, one of his last speeches, he like warned against political parties and the dangers inherent with them. Um, and I mean, politics is supposed to be about policy, not about people, right? And with herd
Sure.
mentality, it's exacerbated in that a lot of times.
Yeah, and again, I think a good transition to another bias that we should bring up is feigning cognitive bias, which I'll give the definition in a sec if you want me to. But
Oh, sorry, I think it's framing cognitive bias.
I misread that. Framing, my bad.
No, you're
Um,
good. You're good.
so anyway, it's so interesting when, especially like on social media, it's because that's the quickest way to, I think, see this phenomenon where someone who is famous or maybe has a lot of influence in some way, who could literally be an influencer or even a streamer nowadays, like a Twitch streamer. If they present like an argument to you, or if they're talking about a serious topic, and like if they're paid to like talk about a political issue or something like that, or at some sort of cause, you want to listen to them. You want to believe that they're right because they have more followers, they have more subscribers, they have more likes. So automatically think, okay, well, all these people, they're crowding around this person, they're listening to this person. Maybe I'm the wrong. Maybe I'm in the wrong. Um, so yeah, so framing cognitive bias, it's just that it's when someone makes a decision because of the way information is presented to them, rather than just based on facts. So if someone sees the same facts presented in a different way, they're likely to come up to a different conclusion about the info, which is, again, I like to think that I don't fall for that. But, you know, when you see someone, a really famous personality, you're like, oh man, these folks, they must really care about what they're talking about. Maybe I should listen to them. So
No, I totally agree. I think the most hilariously obvious example is whenever these big time Hollywood actors are, doing advertisements and marketing for products because they've been named like the
yeah.
ambassador of it. Like, I mean, do you think they really care about like a soda stream, or are they just trying to sell you it so that you get, because they are being paid for it? Like, and I mean, this isn't necessarily it's an obvious example, but it's not the perfect example, because with this framing cognitive bias, it's a lot of times also like with the way things are, the way the attitude and manner in which things are presented. Because I mean, if we think about like news specifically, like we got CNN and Fox, those two are like decidingly like far right, far left, and they both will have their spin and their own optics on a story. And I mean, that, like, the facts are the facts, but the way you present them can change everything.
Oh, for sure. And yeah, like, yeah, if you're, I think a less, I guess, serious example may be like, I don't know if you, I don't know if for maybe it was like a year or two ago. I swear, every, you know, decently sized YouTuber would always have an advertisement for Raid Shadow Legends. Do you remember
Dear
that?
God.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's, and I know that's not a really serious issue, but it drives home the fact that, you know, they may not actually care about what products or what opinions are being presented, but if it fits with what they're known for, then they're going to present it. And that's dangerous to especially impressionable people like kids or teenagers, right?
Mhm.
Who might not necessarily have the best outlook, because they don't have a lot of real world experience yet. You know, they're still young. So that always kind of bothered me. Not just Raid Shadow Legends, obviously, but like, um, you know, if they have like a serious topic they're being sponsored for or paid to do by some media company, what's to say that the narrative may change, right?
For sure.
Yeah. So
I think a good example, also I just thought of, I don't know if you remember this, but this was back whenever Trump was on the presidential run, and there was Casey Neistat. He was like a super popular YouTuber.
Hillary
I don't know if
Clinton.
you remember him putting out like a video about like
Yeah.
voting against Donald Trump.
Yeah, he was like, Hillary Clinton. I will be voting for Hillary Clinton. I'm like, oh God.
Exactly. And
Like that's fine if you do. I don't care. Like that's not the point. It's just that why just make sick vlogs like you usually do. Just I don't care about your personal opinion.
it's crazy because like with this framing cognitive bias, it's in all parts of our life, because it's how we present information. And I think that it's especially dangerous in social media, like we're talking about, because social media has now become a vehicle for dissemination and distribution of information. So it'll only take one click and someone to read it, and their opinions are either enforced challenge, or the person shares it amongst another set of people. And the spread of this like misinformation, which has become, like fake news has been popularized by Trump, but like misinformation has always been around. I mean, take for example like oil and nuclear. It's framing is a very important aspect of knowledge. For example, whenever I was in high school, I took a class on the Bible, and they said that the most important thing about the Bible is context, and the worst thing that has ever happened to the Bible is that we added verses and chapters to the Bible because it was meant to be read as a whole document. It was a letter. Like there was it's letters and poems and songs and stuff, and when you just get these like little sentences and sound bites and small thoughts, but you don't see the bigger picture of like where it's coming from and where it's
Right.
going, like
Yeah.
You ruin the existence of the knowledge, or maybe not necessarily ruin, you shape it to be your own.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And yeah, just I think I knew about that. I don't remember which books they were added to, but I do remember hearing about that. And if let's say that I don't know, you come up with a great story about how how there's corruption, I don't know, in Honduras, right? I know that's kind of a far off example, but all of a sudden, okay, so someone picks up your story, but they also add a little sprinkling of, oh well, the U.S. did something terrible, and that's why this happened, but there's no sources to back it up. Like, but someone reads that, they may not necessarily look and see that this was cited or anything like that, and they're like, oh man, God, the U.S. sucks. Like, why did they do something like this? And it is the internet, right? Like it's so easy to sprinkle in an opinion here or there, and no one holds you accountable for it. I don't know if that's kind of what you were getting at, but that's kind of what came to my head when you mentioned that.
Absolutely what I was getting at, because we have we have two different forms of information. We have the objective and subjective.
Yeah.
And as soon as we inject subjective information into an objective reality, it becomes disoriented, and I think it's sad because, like, take for example, like the January 6th Trump rally and the White House being stormed and whatnot. Like media, whether it's newspapers, whether it's scribes or on papyrus, like they write history. That's what is left in civilizations. They write the history, and with January 6th, like, especially in Europe, it was publicized as like a deadly incident, when in fact only one person died. And I mean, you want to talk about deadly? Like, let's look back, like maybe 50 to 100 years ago. There was a lynchings going on and whatnot.
Yeah,
like it's just crazy the way that we're able to just do that freely. And I mean, there is some forms of accountability, such as like libel in the U.S., but for the most part, it goes widely unregulated, which is a good thing. I believe freedom of speech, but it's just unfortunate whenever this bias is used.
Well, and I think it's easier, to get away with it online too, because there's so much content. I mean, practically limitless amounts of content, right, over just one topic. People aren't necessarily watching you. There aren't watchdogs that monitor that. Oh, okay. Unless it doesn't fit the narrative, right? Whatever narrative you're supporting. So, like, let's say you write a left-wing piece on Fox News, you might get scrutinized for that, just because of the nature of Fox News, or vice versa on, I don't know, MSNBC or MSN News, or I don't know, any of them. So, like, I guess it depends. As long as you go with the flow, people probably won't try to call you out for it. But yeah, and just as like an overall, I guess, question, like, what is your opinion on corporate control over social media and how it is influential? Because we were talking about like how people like influencers and YouTubers and streamers and whatnot have a say, but what happens when I think just recently, the past 5-10 years, companies have really hammered in to our psyche, I think, the idea of advertising and social media, and it seems to me right now they're trying to be relatable. And I know they always try to do that, but on the surface, it sounds all well and good, but there seems to be something more serious going on with how they're being portrayed on social media, and how their agenda could be pushed. But I didn't know what you thought about that, but
I mean, at first glance, it's pretty two-faced. Like, I think what comes to mind immediately is the LGBT, the rest of the alphabet. Whenever the Gay Pride Month comes around, like corporate culture is like all about like showing their pride, throwing the flag up and everything, because they're trying to be allies or friends. And I think it's like, I'm not saying that it's wrong to certainly certainly wrong to, it's not necessarily wrong to invest in certain social justice ideas and spread them via your company, but I think that it's kind of dangerous to present yourselves as a friend or an ally, because they're a business. It's not, when something goes wrong and you lose your job, or like it's not like a human being or an organization that's meant to be friendly or like an ally. Like, they're a business. It's
right.
like corporate. That shift is scary, because what a corporation is certainly not what they're presenting.
No, they're profit driven, right? They're not, and you could argue the morals of that. I'm not really, don't really care about that, right? Necessarily, I'm more, it's more dangerous to me that corporations are trying to give off a social image as if they are the authority figure, or the the authority figure on
that's a good point.
Yeah.
No, I see what you're saying, because whenever you have a group of like big tech companies coming together and all spreading this ideal for the society, it infects the next generation, because this is how like the next generation interfaces. Like, and I mean, just imagine, we talked about governments earlier. Like, think about big tech companies having their own forms of control via their company, and I certainly think that they should be more transparent about certain things, but it's not necessarily wrong. Like, morally, I don't stand anywhere with it. I just think that it's scary to think that like the next generations will view like something like McDonald's. Like, with McDonald's, you have the Happy Meal. Like, I don't know if you know, but like they've been sued several times about the Happy Meal and like the toys and stuff in the meals, because the effects it has on children, right? And like, I think that corporations are like a larger form of that, in that they do some of the same actions, just in different ways.
So like, well, when you say they're being sued, like they're being sued for like what's in them, or what?
No, the use of marketing with like certain. Yeah, you see what I'm getting at now?
Yeah. Okay, I was confused there, but that makes sense. Yeah, and which is fair. I don't think necessarily toys would do something like that, but for sure. Okay, and we may be backtracking a little bit, but can you imagine just how? Well, first of all, imagine kids, right, and how influential they are. I mean, we were kids once, right?
Yeah.
Imagine how much power or influence YouTubers and these influencers have on kids, because kids, from what I see nowadays, there's most kids gravitate towards YouTube, at least right now, and Twitch and Instagram and TikTok. So can you imagine just how much money could potentially be made by marketing to them? Because
enormous amounts.
Yeah, because like a lot of those personalities online, I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of personalities online want to give off the impression that they're your best friend or that they're just like you. Does that make sense? And so
Yep.
when you have that powerful connection with a kid, I mean, of course they're gonna want to buy your merch or buy whatever you're trying to push, right? So, and what better opportunities for a corporation than to just give an influencer some money so they can promote your product.
I see exactly what you're getting at, and I think what we've both been talking about is influence, like influence itself, and how social media is now the new instrument of influence. And with
sure.
influence comes power. I mean,
yeah,
it's crazy because like a lot of times I have to remind myself, like you look at kids and you think like how could they think about, sometimes they come up with these crazy ideas or they hear something ridiculous and they believe it. But we have to remember that like we once believed in Santa Claus. Like that's preposterous. And
sure.
I mean, just
hey, wait.
Just wonder,
no. What are you trying to tell me? He's not real? Come on.
Oh shoot.
What?
I mean,
I haven't talked
I'm
to
not sure. I haven't done a scientific study yet. I'm not sure.
I haven't talked to my mom about this, man. Come on. Chill.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, didn't mean to derail. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. And so I think that we've kind of been talking about like influence in terms of children and touching around the next generation, but like it's us too. Like we I mean, companies and corporations have been doing this in different ways and methods, and now it's just easier and more obvious. But let's go ahead and start talking about, like, we've kind of outlined the problem, but let's talk about like governments. Like we talked about the social credit score in China. Like they also have like they have some because they own TikTok, right?
Essentially.
Yes. They have their own version of TikTok that's like run also by the state controlled. It's also state controlled, and like in between like how whenever you swipe, like you can get ads in between some of it, like there's like state run ads I've heard where it's about like science experiments and other things, like they're trying to dissuade people from like this influencer virus and social media, and they're trying to encourage kids to invest in other important and lucrative parts of society for China, such as science, medicine, like STEM essentially. And so I think that was a pretty interesting method of kind of dealing with this problem of social media. And also, did you hear about them shuttering internet for children, like gaming at certain times?
No. In China?
They're in China. Yeah, they're trying to limit the younger generation's ability to game and whatnot.
I mean, I know that they may be trying to cite like how video games can be addictive, but I mean, maybe that's the reason. You know what it may be too is that if you expose kids over there to games, then they may have certain ideals that the Chinese government doesn't want them to be exposed to, like if they're Western games.
Gotcha.
That's just an opinion. I have no idea if that's true, but
no, that's actually true, because I read about I think it might have been, okay, there's three instances I know about. I think we should talk about each one of them because they're actually super cool. So I mean, I'm gonna go with the first one being League of Legends. Are you familiar with that game?
Oh yeah.
I've never played it, but it's certainly like a big tournament game, and like there's a lot of like championships and leagues involved. But I remember reading about a person, a gamer that won, and before he got the money for winning, he had said some remarks about the about China and about some problem that he had an opinion on, and they actually reversed like as part of the contract that he signed for the tournament. They were able to just like not give him any money. Like he was not able to get any money at all, and they like
Was he Chinese or?
I don't remember exactly all the ethnicities and whatnot, but I do remember that he was saying something and that was against the government and not like a protest by any means, just like a comments about his opinion. And because of that, the the gaming tournament was he forfeited his money essentially.
Wow.
Yeah, so if that's pretty interesting. But second thing is like I don't know if you heard about this because I've done some game development before with Unity and Blender, but they actually have to, and I think that this is also specific to North or South Korea. They have to change certain campaigns or the story mode of games to adhere to the social principles of these countries. And I mean, it's not like things necessarily about stereotypes. It's about like actual values that are incorporated into the story.
Wow. No, I did not know all that. Man, that's scary, especially like just stuff like video games. Like how much oversight do they really have in those people's like? I mean, I know we were just talking about it, but I really hope that never happens to us like directly. I know we're being watched online, but just in the real world, like I at least want to disconnect. You know what I mean? Man.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Shoot.
And the last one, just real quick. I saved the best for last. I thought this was incredibly interesting. I heard about this one time, and I actually logged on and checked it out. You're aware of Minecraft, right?
No, never heard of it.
But Minecraft has a capability of like Minecraft servers where you can log on and play multiplayer. There was a Minecraft server that was built for journalists or people in countries that didn't allow like the free media.
Oh wow! Okay.
And so like there's a item like the book item in Minecraft where you can actually write and you can like place it and whatnot. Like it has a lot of functionality. It's incredibly cool when you think about it. And the server, it was categorized into different countries, and then like people could write about something that's happening, and journalists would be able to send information, and people would be able to send information via Minecraft through the server about like things that were happening that were not allowed to get out of the country through media and the internet.
That's wild. That's so cool. So like, especially I'm assuming like places like China or Russia, maybe. Wow, that's awesome. I never heard of that.
Yeah, I logged on twice and I don't remember what I read, but it was certainly cool to see like this is a person from the other side of the like possibly the other side of the world, and they're trying to share something that's important to them to the world that's not allowed to get out in their country. I thought that was so cool and such an innovative and strategic way of dispersing information. But anyway, so we can move past that if you want, and you can take us to the next topic if you have any.
Well, yeah, I mean, I guess we could bring it back over to the United States. We've been talking a lot about okay, well, we're obviously being monitored, and we are being encouraged to think a certain way, especially if it conforms to what we already think. But what happens, on the legal level? Like how much oversight can these companies actually have over us versus how much freedoms are they allowed to have? So, of course, pretty much everyone understands, at least on the basic level, what the First Amendment is. But essentially it's, Congress cannot establish religion or prohibit religion from being expressed. Oh, and it protects the freedom of speech, the press, which is an inherent right for the people according to the First Amendment. But this is I've heard about Section 230 before, but Section 230 I didn't realize it went into this, or it was this broad. So if you want, I can go and read that too.
Sure, yeah. Please tell us about this.
Yeah. So it essentially permits internet companies to moderate their sites without being responsible legally for what they host, as long as they're treated like a public square, right? So,
Mhm.
in other words, like if someone posts, something like child porn or drug trading or threats against somebody, in terms of like wanting to like kill them, for instance, then those companies are not on the hook for prohibited from legal action. So, which makes sense. I mean, obviously, I don't think anyone could rightly expect, or in reality, like Facebook or Twitter, from preventing every single, act of crime from being committed. But the issue, I think, is that okay, well, obviously, we can't expect them to prevent all that stuff from happening. But what happens when they are becoming a tool for influence? That's the debate right now. Um, and
And I think,
yeah, go ahead.
ironically enough, these companies are actually like enacting, because I mean, they are doing these types of measures, but with their own ideology.
Hmm.
Because it's like they're protected from outside forces, but internally they can make it however they want, which makes sense, right? It
Hmm.
makes sense that a company can regulate what they want inside their borders, but I mean, I think that like there's the argument of free speech, right? Like if someone is posting something about you online, you have no ability to defend yourself or to have a conversation about it.
Hmm.
It like because you know the internet has externalities, right? So uh take for example, like when Kanye West announced that he was partnering with Gap and that they were going to have a deal for 10 years, the stock jumped 10%. And like the internet
Yeah.
has real externalities, and we have to think about like how are we going to deal with social media, and in fact social media that is owned by corporations with their own interests. And
Hmm.
I think that section 230 is a problem, um because like it makes sense to shield young companies. Like uh imagine if there was a troll, like you owned a company that was a social media company and a troll farm attacked it, and you didn't have section 230, so like some of the stuff on there like you could be sued for and you just lose everything. But
Yeah.
I mean, let's think about it now with these, like I want to call them gigantic tech companies, because they own so much and they are worth so much. Like they now are enacting their own like regulations and moderation.
Hmm.
But there's no legal responsibility involved, which is dangerous. Like take for example, bureaucracies, like bureaucrats, like administrative states in particular. Like no one votes for the chairman of the FBI and whatnot, but they have so much power and on our lives, and we're not even we have no freedom or say in it. And so I think that it's important for us to maybe rethink like how social media and the internet works, since it's
Hmm.
becoming more and more integrated into real life. Like think about like Ready Player One, like that's
Yeah.
that's not coming down the pipeline.
No, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, and I think that's a huge problem that may not be addressed anytime soon. Is how much oversight should these companies have? Yes, they can be protected from you know uh, criminal acts outside of their control, but when they are the ones influencing us, or providing means for us to be targeted, or
Exactly.
censored, um, like okay, are they just gonna get off scot-free forever? Like, what'll happen? You know? So yeah, it's a serious issue that I think is only going to get more important as time goes on. It's already important enough, but uh, yeah, it's going to be an interesting few years, I think, ahead of us, especially this decade. I don't know about you, but sure
Mhm.
seems that way. Well,
Especially like just like like I mentioned, like we start transitioning to virtual reality and like augmented reality and stuff. Like
yeah,
the the framework we have in place with the laws right now is not going to hold. But I'm no politician, and I have no direct solutions available to me. So we'll just have to wait and see. But it's certainly an interesting conversation to think about what our forefathers or our founding fathers had, like, their ideas for our society would be and
hmm
where we are today. But I mean, that is some heavy topics. You wanna cut to a commercial break?
sure, yeah. I'll just kind of lighten up the mood a little bit from doom and gloom for just um, cool. All right. Well, on a very serious note, I see here that we want to go over the idea of so as far as like food, uh, what comes up from the ground, bushes or trees. So I'm gonna let you. I'm curious what you wrote down because I didn't take a peek, so I promise.
Okay, good. And just so the listeners are aware, like we are by, what do you call people that study plants? Like, I mean, biologists, right?
Botanist, I think. I
Botanists,
think.
botanist.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so like I'm by no means a botanist, but I just thought this would be really cool to like engage with the products that we use every day. Because I mean,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of people listening that probably have a farm and like are actually like doing ma- producing crops to eat, um, subsistence farming, that is. But let's go ahead and get into this.
All
So
right. I'm
my
excited.
my well, let me just tell you, peanuts.
Oh no.
Oh yeah, it's a very common one, and I mean, I think we eat it quite often, right? So is
Uh.
this item, is this food
Oh man.
from the ground? Is it from a bushes or like a vine, or like is it from trees? Like where are we getting peanuts, man?
I almost think trees. Am I wrong? Is it trees? It's not trees.
It's from.
Okay.
Have you ever seen a peanut tree?
No, no, but you never know. It could be a peanut
That's
tree.
true. That's true. I don't mean to clown on you. It's okay. This year was the first time I've ever seen an apple tree. So I'm gonna go and
So
tell you.
yeah.
It's from the ground, bro. It
What?
literally comes from the ground.
Man, I thought there'd be like a little peanut tree. Here I was. Man, all right. Shoot. I don't know why I thought it would be okay, so is it like I'm trying to picture like what it looks like in the ground. So is
Sure.
it
I got you. So basically, there's like, and it's actually incredibly cool. Like, I encourage viewers to look at, a picture of it, a diagram, and basically it's like, it looks like a kind of like a normal plant, and
mhm,
it sprouts up and it has like a roots. Like, it looks like a normal plant, but then there's these little lines that are coming off the leaves that go down into the ground,
mhm,
and it's super cool because it looks like the peanuts are kind of like hanging, but they're
mhm.
underground hanging, and they and I
Huh.
thought it was super cool looking. So I didn't do any research or anything, but I just thought I was like surprised myself. I was
I
like, oh snap.
yeah, I just assumed they were like little bushes or something. Little nut bushes.
I'm scared, bro, because I was just like, I was just making fun of you and stuff, and I know the one you're about to say is, I probably gonna think it comes from space or something. Let's see.
Oh, well, no, so uh, I use this a lot with like powder, but I never I don't think I've ever actually eaten this before. How about ginger? Do you know where ginger comes from?
I do actually. Okay.
Dang it! All right.
I think I do. Before I say like I'm certain I do, let me go in and tell you. It's ginger is from a root, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, let's go.
All right.
I know that because I worked as a produce clerk
Oh,
at
okay.
a supermarket at some point, so I got to learn the difference between vegetables and fruit and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So
So the game was rigged.
maybe just a little bit.
Oh
Maybe
man.
just a little bit.
Shoot. I mean, to be fair though, I think a lot of people know that ginger is a root, but I guess it never really like dawned on me like where just common stuff like yeah, like peanuts or ginger comes from. So well, I lost.
I'm
Just all
sorry,
the way
man. I'm
around.
sorry.
Uh,
I think
so
I think it's also like pretty like it's important because like there's this philosophy. It's kind of like a joke from Parks and Rec, the TV show, but I think it's actually pretty important. It's like meat your meat, which is like bacon comes from pigs. You're gonna see the pig,
mm,
and you're gonna see like this animal has to die for you to enjoy the meat of it, and like
yeah.
it's crazy because we live in such a industrialized society. Me and you were like it's surprising to think that some of this stuff like is from the ground or from bushes or trees, and I think it's important for us to connect back to where we came from. So like
Oh, for sure.
honestly, like farming, like it's really interesting because like farming itself, like you literally are working for your food, and like I think that's such an interesting phenomenon because I mean, yeah, it's just farming and everything, but like we've spent like thousands of years like trying to get farming to where it is now. Like and like do you remember like the Malthusian fear where like
Mm,
humans grow exponentially, but we are only able to produce food linearly. Like that
yeah.
was a serious fear, like at one point, and because of like innovation technology, we were able to get past that. But like farming is like the foundation of us, like farming
Oh,
and
for sure.
agriculture per se. But it's like it's a foundation for humanity. I mean,
Yeah,
pretty crazy how detached we are from that.
I agree. No, I agree. Speaking of being detached, like the one I have for you for this next one, the surprising numbers.
Mhm.
Uh, I think this one's gonna throw you for a loop, but maybe not. Maybe you've heard of this one before, but anyway. So the next break we have is surprising numbers. And Alex, do you want to start out, or do you want me to start out?
You got me interested. Go ahead
All
and
right.
shoot yours.
So there's a lot of important people out there, right?
Hmm.
You have people like Bill Gates, you have Warren Buffett, you have you know the you have some seriously influential people who are incredibly important to our daily lives, or at least to our function as a society, right?
Hmm.
But have you heard of the man with the longest fingernails ever?
I think I think I've seen a picture of like a woman with like fingernails so long that they started like curling or spiraling.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I have.
So I obviously can't show a picture right now, but the longest fingernails ever were combined length, so just on the fingers, of
Mhm.
32 feet.
Oh my gosh.
And the picture is kind of like that. It's like a snail shell of just
Oh,
fingernails. It
oh,
was
that's
awful. It was all brown
jeez.
and like ugh, it was rough to watch. I don't know how that
Imagine
person I don't know how that person
like back
ate.
in the day whenever we were like hunter gatherers and sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But like imagine back in the day when you're hunter gatherers and it's like like besides our teeth, like we like how do we take care of ourselves like with our hair and everything? Like
I don't know if they did.
Makes
I don't
sense.
know. Yeah,
But like, can you repeat that again? That 30 what? How
32
much?
feet, 32 feet
32
total, like
feet.
across like the 10 fingers is like, so roughly 3 foot a finger. It's like,
Holy cow.
that's and they were like I said, they were like brown and
Oh jeez. Oh gosh.
yeah, I won't go any further, but like it was not a pretty picture, literally.
I I I
So
I don't know if I'm gonna look that one up to see afterwards, but
no, I wouldn't blame you. But
okay. Let me hit you with mine. Mine is surprising.
hmm?
I think. So well, let me go ahead and tell you. The longest time that breath was held voluntarily was by a male, and it was 24 minutes and 37.36 seconds.
20, did you say 24 minutes?
Yes, and this is according to Guinness World Records.
How?
And it was achieved by a person named Budimir Soba. He's from Croatia. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Okay.
And it was achieved March 27th, 2021.
Wow. Okay. I don't even have words for that. Like how I can barely hold my breath past a minute. Like,
You know, I thought like after 8 minutes you'd probably have brain damage. You know, this is kind of too crazy. Do you mind looking this up real quick? Like,
yeah, I need to see this. I'm like, what?
th- I might be fake right now. I might have some fake news, but you know, I read it on the internet, so I thought. But now that I've said it out loud, that's a little too crazy. But it was by Guinness World Records, longest time breath held voluntarily. Oh, and maybe it wasn't necessarily underwater. Like it was just holding breath.
Hmm. Apparently it's verified and they hyperventilated, like this person hyperventilated for like 20 minutes straight.
Jeez.
I
So
don't even know how.
I wasn't just lying. That's
No, it looks verified. It's got a fact check. But
man, that's a type of torture right there.
shoot,
Hyperventilating for 20 minutes? Jeez.
that sounds horrible. But so from on that happy note, next, is it next week or the week after? Yeah, next week is Christmas. So
Mhm.
we got to hit them up with some Christmas trivia. Don't you? Do you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. So mine's pretty basic. I'm not gonna lie, but there are approximately 30 million real Christmas trees sold every year in the U.S. So
Mhm.
just in case you were curious, and in my family, we always like had a fake tree. We didn't ever buy the real thing, just because like
Always?
yeah.
Like you never had a real tree in your house growing up?
Oh, I take that back. When I was young, we cut down like a cedar tree.
I was about to say because you used to live like you know kind of like in Texas like where you could just walk outside and cut one down. I was like, man,
Well, we did that, but we had god awful allergies from like the
oh no.
tree, like because it was still we still had it up like in January, and
Hmm.
that's the season where like a lot of the pollen comes out, and so we were just dying from this Christmas tree, and like our whole face looked like it was just like a waterfall from all the drainage. So we just switched to fake trees from then. So, but anyway,
I understand now.
yeah.
Sorry, go ahead with your trivia.
Oh no, that's what I had. But
Oh snap!
yeah,
That. Thank you for telling us about that. Sorry, I didn't mean it like as if it was like it wasn't good. I was just like I was wondering because my Christmas trivia is a question.
oh, it's a question. Okay, okay.
But let me ask you, and this is going to be interesting because I don't know how many like actors you know, but I think you should know this one. Which Hollywood actor played six different roles in the Polar Express?
Oh, Tom Hanks, 100%. Yeah.
Easy.
Easy. And I just realized it's trivia. I gave you the answer, so I feel really stupid right now.
No, you're good,
I
bro.
didn't even think about that.
You're totally fine.
I gave you a speed run of trivia. But anyway, but Tom, that's that Polar Express is a classic, man. Of course, I have to know that. I have to know that for sure.
What'd you think about the ghosts in that movie? Like that was such a like I never expected that out of the Polar Express to have like a figure like that.
Forgot. I forgot. It's been a long. I was like a kid when I last saw Polar Express. But what were the ghosts?
There was I guess he wasn't really a ghost. He was like, well, he kind of was a ghost. I don't know how to explain. He was like a person that had like rode on the Polar Express and when he was a kid, and
Oh,
you know what I'm
yeah.
talking about, the guy that was on top of the train and then like
The older
was
guy that
underneath the train. Yep.
like the hobo, right? The hobo on the train.
Yeah, but was he like kind of displayed as a ghost, or what like I didn't understand it.
So he was a ghost, but like he wasn't like and transparent or anything. He was like supposed to be looked like a real person. If I remember right. It was just like an
but
old guy.
he would just go away in a like he would vanish in a ghostly way.
Right. Yeah. That's right. Well, no, of course, yeah. Tom Hanks. Like, how could I would be doing the world a disservice if I didn't know that Tom Hanks didn't play in the conductor. So, and all those other roles.
I love the part where he's like always pulling out his like pocket watch. He's like 2.3 seconds late. We gotta go.
They were always late.
Absolutely. I'm so probably after the movie he got fired. Like
100%. Like he put all those kids in danger like constantly.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that like he would either be fired or sued by like every parent.
Oh yeah. But speaking of trains and locomotives, we're going to talk about energy and infrastructure next time for the next episode with our very special guest who has quite a bit of knowledge on that subject. So do you want me to go ahead? Go ahead.
I'll preface about our guest. I won't tell you who it is. Well, shoot, did I already say who it was earlier? I don't think I did.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, good. So he's one of our friends, and he's very smart, very intellectual, and he was originally going into college in the degree of petroleum engineering. Then he switched out into a double major of energy management and also business, I believe. He'll be able to talk more about his context and background, but I think it's going to be incredibly cool because he's kind of touched or he's kind of been in a lot of different parts of the diversified energy sector and infrastructure sector, but and he's had some experience, and so he's not just talking from book knowledge, and we'll learn more and more about that. But I just think it's going to be really cool because for the most part we've been talking about online things, social media, like a lot of online things, but this is the hardware. This is the foundation of our industrial society's infrastructure and energy. So this would be great to talk about and learn about. And you can go ahead and tell them about the homework.
Yeah. So the main thing that we want y'all to listen to, if you have time, is "Slip Away" by Perfume Genius. And
quick note.
What?
So you probably haven't heard this song before, but this has literally nothing to do with energy and infrastructure. But like, boy, does it give you some energy! Like, I really enjoy the song. I think it's super cool.
I was like, yeah, low key, I haven't listened to it yet, so I'm gonna have to listen to it on my free time as well. I need to do that homework.
Exactly, got to do the homework. So I just picked that because it's fun. It's great, and I think that it and even though it's not necessarily correlated with the theme, I think it gives off some vibes that have to do with the theme. So I picked that to listen to.
Sweet, and we'll post the link in the description. But We're also going to read
as always.
As
like
always.
As always.
Yeah. We're going to read Why Nuclear Power Must Be Part of the Energy Solution by Richard Rhodes. And this one, I definitely recommend y'all should just watch the show if you have HBO. But the first episode is free. It's Chernobyl. If you guys haven't watched that yet, 10 out of 10. I mean, from what I understand, it's about as historically accurate as it gets for a drama. And it's just a freaking great show. Need to censor myself, but it's a really great show. And I'd highly recommend watching that. So the challenge of the week to close out is use a candle for dinner instead of lights one night. Even if you're single, hey, just set the mood, man. You gotta set the mood for yourself. Like, treat yourself. You gotta treat yourself. Absolutely. And like, subscribe, and comment, and all that good stuff. Thank you.
Ring the bell. Like,
ring that bell. Ring that bell. But thank you all again for tuning in to our podcast for episode 4. And please join us next time. Keep it real, guys.
Keep it real.
All right. See you guys.